Hello, my name is John Zeser, and today I'll be discussing how an organization can develop a competitive advantage sustenance model. The purpose of this model is to answer the following questions: how best to prepare for and respond to waves of technological change that affect the behavior of competitors and customers, and how best to exploit waves of technology change to gain and maintain competitive advantage. So I'll start by talking about this model. Technology and strategy come together to form technology strategy. Technology strategy is the foundation in competitive advantage sustenance because it answers the questions that I stated earlier. Again, those questions are how best to prepare for and respond to waves of technological change that affect the behaviors of competitors and customers, how best to exploit waves of technology change to gain and maintain competitive advantage. Throughout the presentation, I'll be showing how the CAS model answers these questions. So technology strategy must evolve into digital business strategy because with an organization's strategy, technology can no longer just assist the strategy, but it must become the foundation of the strategy. So technology strategy has to evolve into digital business strategy. Digital business strategy, or strategy in general, can be divided into two sections: external strategy and internal strategy. I'll start by talking about the external strategy. The first part of the external strategy is differentiation strategy / cost leadership strategy. So an organization has to decide if they want to use a differentiation strategy, which is a unique premium use of the technology that's more tailored to the people's needs, versus a cost leadership strategy that's less costly and more generic and not so tailored to the people's needs. So once that's been established, then they should go by the technology use model. So I have three technology use models here: task technology fit, technology acceptance model, and expectation confirmation model. I created a diagram showing how all three of them relate to each other. So there's two things that are important for somebody using a technology repetitively: perceived easy use and perceived usefulness. In other words, a technology has to be easy to use and has to be useful for someone to want to use it repetitively. If an organization is able to achieve technology that someone uses repetitively, they achieve competitive advantage substance in a couple ways. One is simply having a technology that people use repetitively will give you an advantage over your competitors. Two, when people use your technology repetitively, it gives you unique KPIs, key performance indicators, or other metrics that are hard for competitors to imitate. That will create response lag and barriers to erosion that lead to competitive advantage substance. So that's the first part of the external strategy. The second part of the external strategy involves innovators versus incumbents. So an organization can be divided into two categories: innovators or incumbents. And then I included commercialization strategy and complementary assets down here below innovators versus incumbents, because these things are heavily involved in the innovators versus incumbents portion of the strategy. So if an organization is an innovator, the main thing they have to be good at is knowing when it's good to cooperate or compete with an incumbent. So there's pros and cons regarding innovators cooperating or competing with an incumbent. And then overall, if they're able to master that strategy, then they'll achieve competitive advantage substance. Incumbents, on the other hand, have to overcome the innovator's dilemma. The innovator's dilemma is the decision an organization has where they have to choose between listening to their customers and doing well in their old market, with the risk of a new innovator coming along with a new technology that could take their customers away from them, or being the ones that deploy the new technology themselves and cannibalizing their old market. So incumbents have to overcome the innovator's dilemma. And they also have to know when it's good to lead or follow with a new technology. Contrary to popular belief, it's not always good to lead with a new technology because there's a lot of risk involved with that. So overall, an incumbent has to overcome the innovator's dilemma, and they have to know when to lead or follow with a new technology to achieve competitive advantage substance in this regard. So on to the internal strategy. With the internal strategy, the first part is diffusion / infusion. So I have a diagram here showing acquisition, diffusion / infusion, deployment / adoption with the assimilation gap in between. And all this means is that an organization needs to understand that they can't just acquire new technology. They have to infuse the technology within their organization so that they can use it to their full potential. And then I included the augmentation line and agentic line as part of the internal strategy, because I feel like this is very important for today's companies. So if we go back to the definition of digital business strategy, you have to have the technology as the foundation of your strategy. But I would take it further and say that you shouldn't only have technology as the foundation of your strategy, but you should have AI tools as the foundation of your strategy. So augmentation line and agentic line AI is very good for having AI tools infused into your organization. So augmentation line would be humans completing tasks with the assistance of AI. And then agentic line would be more autonomous AI with human oversight. So taking those things into consideration would be a great way to infuse those AI tools within your organization, which is why augmentation line and agentic line AI attached to diffusion / infusion. I really like the old car, new engine metaphor because I feel like it applies nicely to augmentation line, agentic line AI, and then diffusion slash infusion. Because just like you can't put a new engine to an old car and expect much, you also can't take new technology and put it into an organization using the same old process and expect good results. You have to redesign the whole process around those tools, whether they be AI or some other type of technology. So that's an important thing to do. And speaking of which, if an organization is able to create an exceptional strategy around AI tools, it will create response lag and barriers to erosion that lead to competitive advantage substance because that will be something that's hard for competitors to imitate. So basically, if you had a bunch of organizations and they all had the same AI tools, which they do pretty much, the organization that has the best strategy behind those tools is the one who's going to achieve the greatest competitive advantage. So overall, if a organization adheres to the CAS model, they'll achieve competitive advantage sustenance. Thank you.